So, okay. Now we are in Friday again. And we have this Q&A session for tonight. Now, tonight also, we do not have many questions. And if you have some questions, you can write down in the chat. Or you can also, if you want to speak directly, then you can press the reaction button and raise your hand. Then we can speak directly also. We will unmute you if you want to. Okay, let's go with the first question for tonight. Not too difficult for tonight. No, not too tough. Okay. Can you all see question 1? All right. Okay. My mom, 84, asked me to teach her meditation. Her walking meditation about 15 to 20 minutes. Longer duration causes back pain. Sitting meditation on a chair, 30 minutes to about an hour. Rising, falling, not clear, hardly noticeable. I taught her sitting and touching. Okay, 1. Is it too challenging for her at this age and a cancer patient to learn Vipassana meditation? 2. What about Metta meditation for her? 3. How to guide her effectively? Bhante, please advise. Thank you. Now, of course, when we ask these type of questions, it also we have to go case by case. Sometimes it may not be effective for all older people, and also depending on their conditions and their sickness also. Now, assume that here, which I do not know your mother, I assume that, let's say, your mom is alert, and your mom have certain degree of faith in Buddhism. And if the cancer is not too painful, although it's carrying it, perhaps maybe in remission, or occasionally there are pain coming in. But of course, when we have to do this meditation, it has to be free from the pain. If not, it's going to be difficult for anyone to start meditation. So now the age is 84. It can be a challenge. It can be a challenge for many people. But the thing is that, can we able to teach at this age somebody who has at this age for some Vipassana meditation? Actually, yes, you still can. But we don't expect some great results and so on. As long as they can able to master some kind of mental peacefulness, some mental clarity at certain part of the time, then it will be very wonderful. Now, let's say you want to ask her to do some walking meditation, which is good. She can able to walk 15-20 minutes, then it's wonderful. If you can able to notice, just like right step, left step, and let the mind just settle onto the steps, and don't let the mind, just remind her, don't let the mind goes into thinking, goes into distraction or thoughts about the day, just to remind her, just to stay with the present object, like the steps right now. If you can able to do that, that will be very good. That'll be very good. The mind runs a little bit once in a while, if just to remind her, just to come back again. And this type of walking meditation for at this old age, of course, different when it comes to old age, then you have back problem or leg problem or knee problem or muscle problem. Then some, it cannot able to even to walk, or can hardly able, very difficult to walk. Yeah? But I've seen that in the past during in the retreat that there are yogis come in at 75, 80, that they are having a hard time doing walking meditation. But of course that here we are more gentle with them. Gentle in the sense that we ask them to walk. To walk in the sense that in the first few days, okay, just do 15, 20 minutes and then you sit down for half an hour. Then you get up and walk again. Don't follow the timetable too much for during in the retreat. Then after that, after a few days or 5 or 6 days later, because of the walking they have been doing for a few times per day, sometimes their leg strengthens, and or their back problem or their knee problem become less painful, and they find that they can able to do a little bit more longer walking, which is also is good for them. It in the sense of their health and in the sense of their clarity of the mind. So you don't push them so hard in the beginning and let them to do a bit of walking, and then after a while you ask them to do a bit more. Sometimes they may do a bit less, it's okay, but just to remind them just to do a little bit more if they can. That will be good for them because it helps to strengthen their body in a certain way. That is my experience in the past. Because of sometimes when you come to this age, sometimes old people have a set mentality that the body is painful, the leg is painful, and then they begin to neglect the exercise, the walking. But if sometimes somebody were to encourage them, just to push them a little bit, they will start to walk. Then to remind them, then they will walk. To remind them that they'll walk. So too, like for example, when Sayadaw Nyanaponika is in Kuala Lumpur, the late Sayadaw Nyanaponika, when he's in Kuala Lumpur or is in PJ when he goes for his medical checkup, now every now and then I have to remind him that get up and walk. Sometimes, of course, with my little bit cheekiness, and then I try to use different method to make him walk and do all kinds of things. That one, I'll keep it for myself. But anyway, the whole purpose is to make them walk. When they walk, they become walk, and then after that they feel better. But you have to be patient. You have to be patient. You have to be patient to don't expect so much of result. Just to accompany them sometimes. Just for them to walk a little bit more, and then it'll be very good. So if you are able to do 15 minutes walking meditation, that is wonderful. If sometimes it can be a little bit longer, if the back pain is not so painful, then it'll be very good. So this is wonderful. Now sitting on the chair, of course with the back pain, and it's good to sit on the chair. All right. So this is fine. Sitting on the chair 30 minutes, 1 hour also is fine. Just to make sure that, again, when people have a back pain, sometimes sitting for an hour, it can cause some degree of back pain also because of the body is not moving. So you have to monitor. You have to monitor your mother in this sense that just to check with her if the pain is getting more terrible and so on and on. Now, in the sense of the meditation partner, if she cannot able to notice the rising and falling at this time, then it still is okay. If you want to teach her some sitting and touching, it's perfectly all right. Uh, uh, and sometimes also just to advise her, just to feel the whole body, just to remind her that the body is here in the present moment. Uh, no need to no need to think about the cancer. Don't think about the death. Think about the past, or think about other children. Think about the husband. Think about all kinds of this. And you just tell them to gently put the thoughts aside, and then just bring the mind to the present. If it's the present, it's just be with the body, then be with the body. And then if it is a present, be with some degree of some pulling or some aches here and there, and then be with it. Just be aware of it. Just you have to keep reminding her in this sense, because just like everybody else, we forget to be mindful, and it's easy for us to forget to be mindful. Your job is just to do the same thing again and again, to remind her, then just to keep her in the present moment. Just to keep her in the present moment, just to keep her in the here and now. And that would be wonderful. Don't think about too much about the rising and falling if you cannot able to notice them. Taking more of a bigger object, like a present bodily object, that would be wonderful, or some kind of some degree of unpleasant feelings, then also is good. Then just to remind her when we do this type of meditation again, don't tell her, don't go into all the past story, don't go inside the story, don't go inside the imagination. Even sometimes she may see light, and she may see some kind of object or mind object. Just remind her, don't go inside there. This is part and parcel of how the mind may trick us into it. Something like that, some Dharma talk with her. Then it'll be very good. That one will be very good. Now, when it comes to, like, sometimes she may be sad about her cancer or other diseases that is going through, then you also teach her how to acknowledge, to accept the patient, to accept the cancer or the other sickness that arising at this moment of time. Is it just to remind her that acceptance is much more greater than falling into the sadness or thinking why me, why I'm the one who having all these things. Then kind of like shifting her mind in another way, just for her to be out of that sadness or difficulty of the state of mind at this time. Now, once in a while, of course, if you ask about if we can do metta meditation or not, of course can. Of course can. Then this time also you have to learn to teach her, to guide her a simple metta. Don't do too complex, for example. Then here again, you start off with oneself here. You start off with oneself, then again to remind her just to keep all the thoughts and everything away, and then gently just sit there and feel oneself, have that you remind that yourself you have done a lot of good deeds in the past, what deeds she has done, and so on. Those deeds that she has done, and then ask her to recall back those type of deeds, those good deeds. Then with that, it brings about some kind of joy, some kind of happiness in the present. Then with that happiness, that is a very good start, because for mindfulness and concentration to settle in is that joy and that happiness that comes in. Then ask her to wish herself to be free from all kinds of harm and danger. May she be well and happy in that sense. Kind of like as if like you are standing outside, and then you genuinely wish herself to be free from all this harm and danger, or to be well and happy, or whatever words that you find that it's suitable for her, that can able to arouse that metta, that goodwill for herself. Then do it a few times, and then generally then spread it out to the people around you. Spread it to the people around you, whether she knows them or do not know them, and gently guide her to spread some metta. Her mind may run a bit, then remind her just to come back again to the metta. With the words, may they all here be free from all kinds of harm and danger. And then you repeat those verses, and then we spread it to bigger again, and then after that come back to oneself. Not too complex, and don't have to talk about concentration, mindfulness, this and that. This one is sometimes too much for them, unless they are very interested to learn, even at 80, who knows, But most of the people, they are not interested to learn all kinds of all these things. They just want to have practical experience right now, most of the time. So guide her whichever way that you can, however that you can, and to guide her in this meditation. So sometimes you can do metta, for example, like in the morning you want to do a session of metta with her, then fine, well and good. Check with her how she's doing. And then in the evening you want to do some vipassana meditation. Also it's good. You don't have to be like fixed in the metta, or just fixed in the vipassana. Or sometimes you can do is let's say you want to do a 2 weeks metta, also fine, well and good. After that you want to change into 2 weeks of vipassana, also well and good. So all you need to do is to guide her, is to bring her mind back to the present, whether the present is metta or vipassana, just to bring her in the present. Then it will be tremendously very helpful for her. Now this is, one of the ways that we can able to repay our parents. Repay them by, in the sense of if those parents lack of faith, then we help them and we cultivate them with more faith. Then if those with greed, and then we cultivate them with generosity. If they have a hatred, then we cultivate them with more loving kindness and joy. And of course, those with unwise, then we cultivate them with wisdom here. So here, when you teach them, when you guide them, also is one of the ways that how we can able to repay our parents. So never underestimate these small little things that we can do. Sometimes we are in the, we learn the Dhamma too big already. Oh, I know this Abhidhamma, I know this rising, falling, I know this insight, I know this number 1 insight, I know this 13 insight, I know this Magga and Phala and all that thing. Then all these basic fundamentals we forget. We think that we are high and mighty, So never forget, never forget all these small little things, what we can do for ourselves, and also what we can do for our parents or perhaps our community in that sense. So that's why sometimes when we learn the Dhamma, we every now and then we have to go back to our basic fundamental in order for us to make sure that we are rooted to the ground. If not, our ego that comes together with the Dhamma, then it can be a hindrance for your further development. So here, then all this little meditation that, however, that we can guide to our parents in their last stage of their life, as the Buddha put it, then we guide her whatever that we can. Sometimes you never know that at this age, they cultivate some degree of faith and interest in the meditation. And then, so then when they cultivate those interests, then they meditate, and then after they die or before death, they can able to recall this meditation, and also able to recall about their dana. If you help them to do some dana, or you help them in the sila, and if their last thought moment is thinking about these things rather than those things in the past they do perhaps wrong things, then if you can able to think of the right things, and you can able to guide the mind looking in the right way, or in the right view, in the right path, then you'll be done a tremendous service to them in this life and also in the next life. Yeah. So this is something that what we can do, even if you're not able to guide her effectively, but you try your best to give her some degree of wholesomeness, to help her some degree of wholesomeness, then it'll be very beneficial to you and also to her. All right. This is something that we can this one. Nowadays, on another hand, not a noble eightfold path, Now, people, as I said, in this mindfulness thing, people have like mindfulness and old age, mindfulness and pain management, mindfulness and parenting, mindfulness and this and mindfulness and that. So many things nowadays. So one of the ways is mindfulness with together with the old age. So there are people who are starting this type of mindfulness, and they are group of so-called meditator. It's all under the 70s, 80s. Then it helped them in their last stage of life, and also is wonderful. It's very good. Yeah. So this is what you can do. We extract from our understanding of mindfulness and our practice, and then we just extract it a little bit, adapt it to our present state. Like for example, here and your mom, and then we do that. It will be very beneficial for her and then for ourselves also. All right. Let's see the next question. Hey. Wait. Okay, question 2. Can y'all see? Can y'all see? Okay, all right, good. Question 2, Bante. We always hear and read the three evils: greed, hatred, and delusion or ignorance. Can I say the real evil is actually ignorance? Ignorance of anicca, dukkha, and anatta, and karma yet give rise to sankhara, mental formations, which can go either to greed or hatred or both. The dependent origination mentions avijja pachaya sankhara. With ignorance as condition, there are volitional formation as the root cause of dukkha. If one have right view or right understanding, no ignorance, then greed and hatred will not arise. So there are not 3 separate entities. Maybe there are only 2 entities. 1, greed rooted in ignorance, and 2, greed rooted in hatred rooted in ignorance. Okay. All right. Let's see what we can do with this. Now, the 3 evil roots, for those who have not heard it before, 3 evil roots is this greed, hatred, delusion. because all our evil roots, whether it's connected to like even like jealousy, wrong view, and so on, it is connected to all these three, to the three evil roots. And then the opposite of them, of course, the non-greed, non-hatred, and wisdom, the three wholesome roots. So these three evil roots is this. And if you want to read about generally about the three evil roots, there's one book. Where do I put it? I can't remember, but I know it's somewhere in the library here. But there's one book called The Three Evil Roots by Venerable Nyanaponika. And this is the German monk, Nyanaponika. He already passed away in the 80s or 70s, I think. He passed away, but he wrote a very nice about three evil roots. It's quite a wonderful writing, All his writing, I find it is quite relevant to the practice and also the understanding of the Dhamma. So it's one of my go-to author that when I want to talk, when I want to have Dhamma, then I go to a few authors. I find it they are very rooted into the Buddhist Dhamma, and the understanding of them is wonderful. So one of the book is called The Three Evil Roots by Venerable Nyanaponika. German monk. Now, your questions, can I say that the real evil is actually ignorance? Then you go on to say that, of course, ignorance is anicca, dukkha, anatta, which is true. And ignorance also ignorance of the Four Noble Truth, ignorance of karma and vipaka, things like that, or dependent origination, which is also true. Now, ignorance. Sometimes when I give talk, you hear that mother of all defilements, which is ignorance. But the problem is that we cannot confront ignorance directly, because you don't even know that you are ignorant. If right now, if you know that you have a lot of ignorance, you will have given up everything by now. You will have donned a robe by now. You have become a monk or a nun right at this moment, and then you really want to go and get out of this samsara. But you don't want. You don't want because while we are in the sense of ignorance, we don't even know it. We don't even know that we are in a state of ignorance. Even we read about it, that there is ignorance in us, and yet we cannot able to catch hold of it. You say that if one have right view or right understanding, then greed and hatred will not arise. Theoretically, is yes, but that statement of yours is only applicable for an arahant only, and the Buddha and so on. Below that, that means people like you and me and the rest, we have ignorance. We have ignorance, more or less ignorance only. But the problem is, as I said, we cannot see this ignorance. No matter how much we read and how much right view and how much we dig into the Four Noble Truth, dig into the karma and vipaka, dig into the dependent origination, we cannot get out of the ignorance is still there, and yet you do not know where is it. It's not like hatred that it comes up. When hatred comes up, you can feel it. And the greed that comes up, you can feel it there. Oh, now I have a lot of greed because it's there. But ignorance, when it is there, you don't even think that it is ignorance. Sometimes it disguises as something as wisdom, as something as this one. So a lot of course, when you say that when greed arises, it's rooted in ignorance. You are right, not to say that you are wrong when hatred comes up. There's ignorance also. Yes, it's true. But ignorance is always behind. Greed and hatred is always that like the front. They are the front. Uh, uh, they are the, as I say, this greed and hatred and all defilements, they are like the generals, they go fight the war. Ignorance is like the emperor. He sits in the palace. He's the like principal one that is making all the generals to go and fight which war, which how to strategize and everything. So ignorance is always at the behind. So you cannot fight it directly. You cannot hurt it directly, because whatever that's in front of it is all this ignorance, like jealousy, wrong view, and so on. That is all in the front. So ignorance, you cannot do anything much about it. And in the dependent origination, when we discuss about ignorance, avijja, when we discuss ignorance, this ignorance is a past tense. In the sense that because of the past ignorance you have, then it arises this volitional formation. And volitional formation also is the past according to the dependent origination. So what is the present? The present here is when you have rebirth consciousness. And then when you rebirth consciousness, you have this namarupa. And then you have these six senses, then you have contact, then you have feelings, then you have craving. It is this craving that we have to do something about it. You see, in the Four Noble Truths, it says that tanha is the cause for suffering. It then put there delusion. The Buddha specifically says tanha. Why craving? Because craving happens in the present. We only can deal with it when it's in the present. So when you say that craving is in the present, but again, below it is the ignorance. We cannot do much about that ignorance, but we can do something about it, craving. Because when we're able to cut the craving, we also cut the ignorance in that sense. You see, when we develop vipassana, satipatthana as a whole, all the anicca, dukkha, the anatta that you seeing it again and again in different ways, in this way and that way. Here is to change your perception from a wrong perception into a right perception. From you seeing from permanency, or which is nicca, and then you're seeing as blissful, or sukha, or you're seeing as atta or self, to change it through satipatthana to see it as anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self. And to change that perception, it's take tremendous amount of effort, and it takes a lot of patience, a lot of sustainability, and so on, for us to able to change that perception. That perception of all this wrong way of looking at things is because of behind it again is the ignorance. The ignorance is the one that it shoots out all this, seeing it as permanent, seeing it as satisfactory, seeing it as self. It is because of that ignorance is behind it. So when we do this satipatthana, when we see all these anicca, dukkha, anatta in so many ways, and the different types, the different way the anicca, dukkha, anatta is presented, then of course we give the name of different insight, But after all of them are just anicca, dukkha, anatta in various ways. So, so the thing here is this: because of that ignorance, then how we view life and how we view our surrounding and through our senses, we see them as something is pleasant, something is permanent, something is beautiful, something is self. And then with that, we see then the craving arises, the hatred arises, the greed arises, the jealousy arises, the wrong view arises, and all kinds of unwholesomeness arises because of that perception is wrong. The perception is because of the ignorance is there. So the way of Satipatthana is that we change the whole structure of our mental, the mental forces, or is the mental path from the wrong path into a right path. And when we change that forces to see anicca, dukkha, anatta again and again and again, in order to counter its opposite of nitya, sukha, and atta, to change these things. Therefore, when we change this, that one, we also kill the ignorance. Now, in the 10 factors, I forgot to, I was thinking about that particular, the 10 factors. I thought I want to put it down here, but after that I forgot about it. But anyway, in the 10 factors, there's called 5 higher factors. You see, for anagami, the third stage of enlightenment, for an anagami, for a non-returner, then he already eradicate greed and hatred, greed or ill will here, greed, hatred, or greed and ill will. Then he also eradicates skeptical doubt, eradicate the attachment to the rites and rituals, and eradicate the wrong view of self, or the wrong view of self, identity view, they call it. So these 5 factors is eradicated, but he is not able to eradicate another 5 more, which is craving for existence, which is one is the craving for existence of fine material, of this is the Brahma world. Second one is the craving for the arupa world. Arupa means immaterial world, with beings that arises without body, only arises with mind only. Then after that, you have third one is the conceit, fourth one is the restlessness, and the fifth one is the ignorance. The fifth one. So the 5 here is the 5 higher factors. So you see the craving here. The craving when we deal when the path and fruit of the path of arahantship, when it arises, it immediately eradicates everything. It eradicates everything. It eradicates, and notably here, it's the ignorance also is eradicated. But when the eradication takes place, the yogi also do not know. There's no like something like when you are hatred, then you know hatred. You can feel it. When you have greed, you know greed. You feel it. That is very different level of the state of mind. Here is the ignorance. Here is that you are eradicating at the what level? Anusaya level, the latent level. You are eradicated at the latent level, not that it already come out in the mind or in the actions or speech. That this is at the latent level. So this one, when we eradicate at the latent level, the ignorance at the latent level, then it cannot able to produce in the mind. It cannot able to produce in the thoughts, in the thoughts or in the speech or in the action. So only that path consciousness of an arahant, that you can able to eradicate everything. Even the anagami don't realize that the ignorance is still there. He knows theoretically, he knows that theoretically that okay, I'm not an arahant yet, but he still doesn't know where the ignorance is, because again, I said ignorance, it all comes always at the background. So what he can do is that he has to practice higher right until arahantship, then only he can able to eradicate everything. So there's no other way to eradicate this ignorance. So no matter how much you read and how much you think that you know about the Dhamma, the ignorance is still there, because it is at the latent level at this time. Of course, when you are greedy at that time, at that moment of time, or you are having ill will at that moment of time, ignorance is also there, or delusion is there, is at the background. But anyway, the only way that you can able to eradicate this ignorance is at the path of arahantship only. So they are not three separate entities, but they are only two entities. Maybe there are only two entities. You cannot say that, because greed is a mental factor, hatred is a mental factor, ignorance also is a kind of a mental factor also. It's just that it is not obvious, it is not prominent. It's a mental factor also. That's why they put it as greed, hatred, delusion. The Buddha put it as greed, hatred, delusion. All forms of defilements is rooted in ignorance. Not only greed and hatred only. Jealousy also, in a way, is connected to your restless mind also is connected. Your sloth and torpor also is connected to ignorance too. Your laziness of mind and so on is all connected with ignorance. So ignorance is like it's all the branches that goes out, and it's connected to all the unwholesome mental factors. So you cannot run away. So all this unwholesomeness, they are all connected to ignorance. But ignorance is a mental state. So that's why we call it greed, hatred, delusion. We have greed, hatred, delusion in that sense. So these are all the questions. I don't have any more already. Okay, let me see. Anybody have questions on verbal questions? Let me see, what the hell. Or if you want to have questions from the let me see, from the Facebook also, you can type in if you want to. So if you have any questions, if no questions, then it's perfectly all right, no problem. Okay. No questions, huh? All right. No question, fine. Good. We can call it a night. Huh?